Good morning, everybody. I got a question recently, and it's funny because I talk about this a lot, creation and everything else. Did creation have a creator? Yes. But I got the question, did dinosaurs exist, or did the world start with Adam and Eve? And I wish I had a 3 to 5 minute response. I'm not sure how long this will take, but to start out with, yes, both. I know that's going to be weird, and people are like, how do both things? Because one of them has to be, and one of them has to be, because two of them state polar opposite things. And part of the problem with that is because we've been lied to. Just recently, we went to Pine Ridge, and we went a day early so we could go up to South Dakota and see the president's heads in the rocks, because that's pretty cool how they chiseled that. But while we were there, we stopped by the Mammoth. There's a... Gosh, I can't remember what it's actually called, but it's a mammoth museum, and it's one of the first archaeological digs to find mammoths in that area. And as we're walking up to the building, I've already studied all this because, like I told my Sunday school kids multiple times, I studied all religions to figure out, only one religion makes God personal. Only one religion makes it a relationship. Only one is by the grace of God. Or all these other religions where you have to try and obtain your faith and do all these things to get to this place. Or did God really create everything? Did he create Adam and Eve, and then we messed up, and then he came and sent his son? And I mean, one thing I do love about the Bible, just to start this out, which I know people hate the word of God and all this other nonsense, but at some point, if I am God and I did create everything, I'm probably going to send a book to let you know about me. I'm probably going to reveal myself to you, which Bible, Jesus Christ in the flesh. And I'm probably, like Romans 1:1 says, the heavens and the earth declare the glory of God. You are without excuse. Even the Native Americans knew there's a creator. Like, I mean, anybody that looks at creation knows there's a creator. Like, there's an intelligent designer. Like, one of the plant one of the plant cells of like a tree or leaf is literally more complex than the NASA space shuttle. And it's the only thing that can take the sun's light and use it. Everything else the sun will destroy, from our skin to the car to everything else. But did dinosaurs first exist, and there was this giant big bang, and then everything evolved from there, and we slowly came from there to there to a frog, to a paramecium, to a smelly poop flinging monkey, and then we grew into a big, strong, wise man? Or did God create us in his likeness and image? And I tend to believe the biblical account, because the more I studied science on this, where it's not all science is wrong, it's they put some lies into correct science books. So, and they made up dates. For instance, when we went to this Woolly Mammoth Museum, they had these dates and these layers. And when we started out the little walk, and the person that led us around was great. I'm not knocking them. Like, a lot of science people and a lot of people that share these things have been taught false information. I mean, if you're taught false information, you're also going to provide false information. So they don't know. They probably don't have a desire to find these bones. They listen to some guy that's got a PhD talk about how smart he is, and well, I've studied and I'm smart and I use these layers to find these layers. And if you go back and you look at the charts, the fossil charts and the strata charts, they used one to date the other. It's circular reasoning. They throw it out in court, but for some reason we shove this in a textbook and shove it down kids' throats. And one of the easiest places to catch a kid, it was Adolf Hitler that said, if you tell a lie big enough, long enough, loud enough, people will start to believe it. In fact, they'll believe a bigger lie rather than a smaller lie. And we're getting fed a really big lie. And it's starting with kids, with dinosaur books and Tyrannosaurus Rex. And do you know what dinosaurs even are? Do you know where the word came from? In the 1800s, the word dinosaur came about. Didn't even exist before the 1800s. But there were still these things we were digging up that we call dinosaurs. But they were giant reptiles. And in the Garden of Eden conditions, even in Jurassic Park, there is some things in those movies that, not the dates clearly, because millions and billions and trillions and killions and... I'm sorry, it's not funny. It's sad that people have made all this nonsense up and would prefer to lie to you than say a God created all this. But I believe in giving the Creator the glory that he deserves, and he did create all things. And so when we go to this Mammoth Museum, they have these sediment layers, but I have to back up. First, she said that they all drowned in a sinkhole, and I instantly turned to my wife, who is standing like over there with the other kids, and we all have these little earpieces in. And she's like, yeah, all these mammoths came to this top of this hill and drowned in this sinkhole that's at the top of this hill. And I'm looking over like, are you shitting me? Like, forgive the language. I know some people don't like the little cuss words that throw on these sometimes, but I was baffled. I'm like, they drown, huh? In a giant sinkhole. And I'm like, or 4,300 years ago, there was a worldwide flood, which there's evidence of in the Grand Canyon and all over our planet is evidence of a worldwide flood. And yeah, most stuff when the waters are rising up and the rains come in, because it was both, the firmament's coming down and the rains are rising up, everything's going to run to the top of hills. And when you get to the top of a hill, I don't know if anybody knows this, but mammoths don't have wings. They don't fly good. At least I didn't think so. Dumbo. I mean, I guess he could have took off from up here. But they get to the top of this hill, and it's not that there's this giant sinkhole that they all just were like, hey, you know, Timmy went down there and didn't come back up. I'm going to jump. Dude, at some point, like, you're telling me one of the strongest, biggest, like, animals, like, was that brain dead that they all just kept rolling into the giant sink? Like, there's, like, hundreds of thousands of bones in this pit. Like, they've dug up tons. No, they got to the top of a hill and couldn't go no more, and when the flood comes, that's where they all get stuck. And I don't know about you, but the heavy stuff seems to sit at the bottom. The bigger ones are found at the bottom. Weird. That is so odd. And another thing I teach kids, like, I wasn't ever really into science, I didn't like it, but if you take a water bottle and you add like half dirt, half water, and you shake it up, all the sediments all this heavy stuff is gonna go to the bottom. And it's the same that happened with this mammoth dying on this hill. And it's funny because they said they found water in their lungs, and which again, flood, drowning. They call it an ice age. But another thing is we walk through, we get to the other side of this mammoth complex, which it's really cool. The dig is really cool. I wish they quit lying about the times and the dates. And on one part of the hill, you have like 190,000 years down here. And then at another part of the hill, they had like 120. Well, some of these bones are like, I don't know if they didn't realize it or whatever, but some of these things are through both layers. And that thing either died really slow or the dates are wrong. Like, you can't have both. So I guess what I'm getting to and what I've learned over the multiple years of studying some of this stuff, dinosaurs, mammoths, all of it, you don't dig it up and it comes with a date of made in 1.4 million BC. Really you have to go study the fossils in the strata and you'll realize that they took one date chart and dated all this other stuff. They just made up dates, and which is really, really hinky. And again, why you couldn't use it in a court of law. And then the other one, they didn't do the dates, morning intro, and they just took this chart and then made this chart and then just made sure this chart fit this chart. Just any parts that they didn't get right, which is really hinky. And if you go look at the Smithsonian, which is a place that has covered up a lot of stuff, they've dug up dinosaur and human footprints, which we weren't even in the same torrential areas. But if both things are running, when Noah says and builds his boat and God says, I'm going to flood the world, and he has all this time to tell these people, you know, quit mocking me, quit making fun of me. God told me to build the boat. It probably hadn't even ever really rained before the flood because there was a giant firmament and the conditions were way different in the Garden of Eden. And you can study some of these things. It's like I said, like from the Jurassic Park movie, they take this little ember with the mosquito in it and they take out this little bubble that's in it, and it's like 70% more oxygen than the air we breathe today. Now, if you let a reptile live in 70% more oxygen, they're going to get way bigger. And if you let a reptile live in its normal habitat, they get pretty big as it is. Garden of Eden conditions, yeah, they're going to be ginormous. And then the flood, obviously killing everything off, but 8 people and 2 of every kind of animal. And you have evidence of that everywhere. Chinese called them Nihu. So it's not that these civilizations didn't get this from Noah and Papa Noah, Grandpa, great Grandpa Noah. Did we come from Adam and Eve? Yeah, but really from Noah. All of humanity. They can even say that the bubble goes from this point to this point, and all of human history goes back to around 20 people. That's more like 8, but and from there we branched out and all those things. But it's a lot easier for me to believe that we're not following this science textbook fairy tale. And Satan did it to Adam and Eve in the garden. Did God really say? No, you'll be wise and you'll be like him. You can't be any more like God than his likeness and image. And God created all things. So Adam and Eve would have seen that. And once they're not there, great-great-grandpa Noah, I'm sure, they didn't have problems with dinosaurs or anything else. There just was all these animals. And when you start digging them up, again, like millions of years, you're not going to have nothing to dig up. I'm sorry, guys. Like, and even in some of these things, like I've studied it to the point where I didn't just go with they made this chart up and they made this chart up. There's literally trees standing through sediment layers that are like one's 1.4 million down here and 120,000 up here. Like that is a slow birth or a slow growing tree or a slow dying tree. But you have tons of trees that are just through all of these sediment layers, which means the layers are just made up BS. And so it gets to the point where are we going to just feed into this lie? Is Satan always going to just win and have his day and making this giant big lie that dinosaurs were real and there's no God and there's no hope and nothing when you go nowhere when you die and no hope and you go nowhere when you die, and then wonder why these kids act out and do the things they do? Or is there a God that created you in his likeness and image and wants you to follow him and what he modeled, and he revealed himself in the flesh in Christ? And then we have accountability, and we do have hope, and we do have a meaning, and we do have purpose, and it's not just, well, we came from smelly poop flinging monkeys. I don't know who would want to believe that anyway. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, no, we did not come from no monkeys. There's multiple different ape families, and God made them according to their kind. You can have multiple different zebra, horse. They all came from their kind. We were made in the image and likeness of God. We didn't come from no animals. We didn't slowly evolve from a paramecium and then become a frog, and then somebody kissed us and we became a prince. And that's a fairy tale. But over here in science, they're saying you crawled out and did this, did that, and then came into that. It's still a fairy tale. You can put 1 million, billion, trillion years on it, all the years you want to put on it, and it won't change the fact that it's a lie. So, yes, dinosaurs did exist. Yes, Adam and Eve did exist. But they weren't dinosaurs. They just were big reptiles that lived with them in the garden. And I mean, at some point we had to decide, like, there's creation, so there's a creator. There's intelligence, so there's an intelligent designer. I believe that is Christ. I believe that God revealed himself in the flesh, and he did make this the only relationship, not a religion, with him. He said, hey, this is who I am. You can follow me, and this is what will happen in eternity, or you can keep doing it and believe in all the nonsense that everybody else makes up. And the others with demons in hell, fam. And I didn't make the rules. I didn't create this. I love when people all the time are like, well, that's your opinion. A lot of it's not my opinion. It's in his word. There's nothing new under the sun, and it's literally in God's word, spelled out from the beginning of time. Jesus quoted Genesis, creation, the beginning, more than any other book. And I wonder why he did that. Like, creation's important. Did God create it, or did this stuff just evolve from a little tiny dot or a big bang, or bang, God said it and it happened? But you don't, and then other Christians have fed into this gap theory BS, where science says this, so we need to make the Bible fit this, and then we turn, to God, a day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day, and there's no time to him. The first day is the first day. The second day is the second day. The 8th day is the 8th day. The 20th day would be the 20th day. And so on and so forth throughout history. And Jesus did all those begat to show you it's from the lineage of David. And then you can trace back David all the way to, just like my mom's side of the family with their reunion, the Shady family reunion. We all have our things traced back through the lineage. You can probably take it all the way back to Noah, to be honest. But they haven't done that yet. But it goes back pretty far. But it's pretty cool to see. Like, we all come from the same family. That's why I don't sit there and trip on the skin color and all the other nonsense. Like, I treat you how you treat people. If you're a menace to society, I don't mess with you no more. If you're a member to it, then I try to help you out. And that's what we all need to be doing as people. Not a denomination, not a certain tribe, not a certain skin color, not a certain political party, not a certain whatever. And we all need to do, as God's kids, in all different forms of life and areas, come together and do things for our Creator, God. And he did leave a Bible that we can learn most of the stuff he wants us to learn. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. I like that one. But we have to stop feeding into these lies that it's millions and billions and trillions and all these different layers and sediments. And quit making stuff up and quit lying just because if you don't want to follow God, don't follow God. Like, cool. You don't have to lie to tons of other kids about all this stuff that's made up and has been disproven. And they're still teaching in the textbooks today. It's called indoctrination, boys and girls. But people for some reason don't care. They're like, well, we watched The Land Before Time, and yeah, these are cool movies, just you ain't got to lie about the dates. Men and dinosaurs, reptiles, large reptiles walk together, so keep that in mind. Love God, love people, love y'all, and teach kids the right way. Like that is our main goal and objective as Christians on this planet, is to pass the baton to the next generation and to study to show thyself approved. So keep studying, keep finding stuff out, keep asking questions until you get there.